And so you've been going deep on large language models, huh?
Looks like it.
And it looks like you've got a ton of questions about whether AI can actually develop personalities.
Yeah, it's a question that comes up a lot these days.
Well, you've sent us some awesome excerpts from a couple articles that tackle this topic head on.
And they're really insightful.
And they get right to the heart of the matter.
Definitely.
Which is, can AI develop a personality like we understand it? You know, in the human sense.
Yeah, that's the big question.
All right, so let's dive right in.
Okay, sounds good.
One of the first things that both of these articles make clear is that LLMs, at least as they exist now, don't actually develop personalities the way people do.
Right. I mean, it's a really tempting thought.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in that idea.
Absolutely. But it's important to remember that we're talking about algorithms here.
Right.
Sophisticated algorithms, for sure.
Yeah.
Trained on mountains and mountains of data. But still, algorithms at their core, they're not sentient beings.
No, they don't have those internal experiences that shape who we are as people.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know, one thing that I noticed you highlighted in your notes, and that the articles talk a lot about, are patterns.
Oh yeah, patterns are key here.
So if AI isn't developing personalities like humans, what's the deal with all this pattern recognition?
Well, that's really the foundation of how these models work. They're like, I don't know, master code breakers. Sifting through these massive data sets and identifying these complex patterns.
Okay.
In language, in relationships, even in human behavior. And then, based on those patterns, they can generate responses that, at least on the surface, seems really human-like.
Right, right.
It's kind of like, imagine a chess grandmaster.
Okay.
Who studied millions of games.
Yeah.
Right? They can kind of anticipate your moves, counter your strategies, and even develop a unique playing style.
Right. Based on all those patterns they've absorbed.
Exactly.
So LLMs kind of operate in a similar way?
Yeah, just with language and information instead of chess moves.
That makes a lot of sense. And, you know, this actually connects to what one of the articles calls the illusion of personality, right?
Oh, yeah. That's a fascinating concept.
So the idea is that if you consistently interact with an LLM in a specific way, like always giving it playful prompts or humorous prompts, it might start to feel like it's developing a playful personality.
Exactly. Like it's learning to be funny.
But it's not really, right?
Well, not in the way we think of it. It's more that the more you interact with an LLM in a consistent context, the more it tailors its responses based on the patterns it recognizes in your input.
So it's picking up on my cues.
Yes, exactly. And that brings us to this concept of fine-tuning, which both articles go into.
Oh, yeah, fine-tuning. I was curious about that.
Yeah, so it's basically taking a pre-trained LLM and then training it further on a specialized data set.
Okay.
To make it better at a specific task or adopt a certain style.
Oh, I see. So it's like taking that chess grandmaster and having them specialize in, I don't know, a particular opening move.
Yes, exactly. Or a particular playing style.
And one of the articles had this really cool example. They compared two versions of the same LLM.
Interesting.
One that was fine-tuned on a data set of really formal academic writing.
Right.
And another that was fine-tuned on casual conversational data, you know, like from social media. And when they gave them the same prompt, their responses were totally different.
Oh, wow, that's fascinating.
In tone and in style.
Yeah, that makes sense, though, right? Because they've been trained on such different types of language.
Right. Like one was like that really serious, detail-oriented professor we've all had.
Oh, yeah, I know exactly who you talk about.
And the other one was like that friend you can just joke around with.
Right, right. But even though these variations are really interesting and kind of mind-blowing in a way, the articles make a really important point.
What's that?
We have to remember that these differences come from how the model was trained, not from any genuine, like, internal development of a personality. Okay, they're still just reflecting the data they were fed, essentially.
They're not thinking for themselves or anything like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like they're playing different characters based on the script they've been given, you know?
Yeah.
But that actually makes me think about something you highlighted in your notes.
Okay.
It's this idea that AI can actually adjust its responses in real time.
Oh, yeah.
Based on how you interact with it.
Yeah, that's one of the really cool things about LLMs.
Yeah.
And it's something the articles talk about, too.
Yeah. It really takes this whole illusion of personality thing to a whole other level.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of the things you can make them feel so convincingly human, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like you're having a conversation with someone who's actually listening to you.
Right.
And, like, adjusting how they're talking to you based on what you're saying.
Right. Right. So it's not just that it's been trained on a certain data set.
Exactly.
It's actually responding to me in the moment.
Right. It's adapting.
Okay.
One of the articles even uses this analogy of a chameleon.
Oh, wow.
Subtly changing its colors to blend in with its surroundings.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So, like, if you're interacting with an LLM and you tell it, hey, I prefer short, to-the-point answers.
Okay.
it might actually start giving you shorter responses.
Really?
Because it's picking up on your preference.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah, it's recognizing the pattern in your feedback.
Right.
And adjusting its output accordingly.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and it can feel like it's learning about your personality and adapting to it,
Yeah.
Which I guess feeds into that illusion we were talking about before.
Right, exactly.
Another point the articles bring up is even when you give an LLM the same prompt multiple times, it might generate slightly different responses each time.
Oh, interesting. Why is that?
Well, it has to do with how these models process information. It's not just about the data they were trained on.
Okay.
There's also this element of, I hesitate to say randomness.
Right.
But maybe variability is a better word.
So it's like there's a bit of creative improvisation going on within the boundaries of its training, I guess.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not just spitting out these pre-programmed responses.
Right.
It's actually generating something new each time.
Even if it's subtle.
Right, exactly. And one of the articles uses this really interesting analogy.
Okay, what's that?
They compare two instances of the same LLM running on different servers to, like, brothers.
Oh, okay.
Even though they share the same underlying code, are trained on the same data.
Yeah.
They might develop slightly different ways of responding over time.
Huh, because they're encountering different inputs and interactions in their environments.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like how even identical twins raised in the same household can still develop different personalities.
That's the idea.
It's pretty wild to think about.
It is fascinating, and the articles kind of acknowledge these subtle differences that can emerge.
But what?
It's important to remember that we're still not talking about actual personality development here.
Okay.
They don't have this independent consciousness or lived experiences that shape them in the way humans do,
So it's more like they're different reflections of the same source.
Yeah.
Each one colored by the specific interactions they've had.
Right.
But not truly distinct individuals with their own, inner world.
Exactly. And this distinction is really important.
Okay, why is that?
Because this is where the ethical considerations come in.
Oh, right.
Which, a couple of the articles touch upon.
Yeah.
Just because an LLM can mimic certain aspects of personality really well doesn't mean it's experiencing emotions or developing self-awareness like humans do.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so we have to be careful not to project our own human understanding of personality onto these AI systems. They might seem like they're developing personalities, but we have to remember that that's an reflection of their programming and our interactions with them. Yeah. Not a sign of true sentience.
So it's more like a really, really good imitation.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay. Yeah. So then the question becomes, if personality isn't the right word for what we're seeing, what is?
Yeah, that's a great question.
One of the articles actually poses if personality isn't quite right for these emergent variations in LLMs.
Yeah.
What's a better way to describe it?
Yeah, what terms can we use that actually capture what's happening?
Right, accurate.
Without, anthropomorphizing these systems.
Right. Yeah, it's a huge question. It really gets to the heart of how we understand and interact with AI.
Absolutely.
Especially as these systems become more and more sophisticated.
Yeah, if we're going to use these tools effectively and responsibly, we really need a shared vocabulary that accurately reflects what they can and can't do.
Totally.
Their capabilities and limitations.
You hit the nail on the head there.
The articles you shared really emphasize that as AI keeps advancing, our understanding of it has to keep pace.
Yeah, we can't just rely on those old ways of thinking.
Right, exactly.
Those old frameworks.
Right, we need to constantly be
evaluating.
Yeah, evaluating.
And refining our language.
And our mental models.
Yeah, to keep up with how fast things are changing.
One of the articles even suggests that, holding on to terms like personality when we're describing LLMs could actually backfire.
Oh, interesting.
It might actually hinder our ability to really appreciate what's unique about them.
Like their strengths.
Yeah, and their potential applications. Right, because we're trying to squeeze them into these boxes that don't quite fit.
It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Yeah, exactly.
So instead of asking, does this AI have a personality? Maybe the question should be, what are the emergent properties of this system?
Yeah, and how can we use them in a way that actually benefits people?
And that's a really powerful way to look at it, I think.
I think so, too.
It's a real shift in perspective, and it brings us back to what you were saying earlier about the ethical considerations.
Oh, yeah, that's crucial.
Right, it's not just a theoretical discussion.
No, not at all.
If we're not careful, our desire to see these systems as more human-like could lead us down a dangerous path.
Absolutely.
A path with some unintended consequences.
The articles really caution against anthropomorphizing AI.
Right.
Because we have to remember that these systems, as advanced as they are still tools created by humans.
Right, by us.
And they reflect our biases, our assumptions, our limitations as humans.
So ultimately, the responsibility lies with us.
I think so.
To use these tools wisely.
Yeah.
Ethically.
Responsibly.
And to make sure they're being developed and deployed in a way that, aligns with human values.
Exactly.
So it's not just about the technology itself.
Right.
It's about how we choose to use it.
And it requires ongoing dialogue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Research, collaboration.
Yeah, we all need to be part of this conversation.
Between AI developers, ethicists, policymakers, the public.
This has been such a thought-provoking deep dive.
It has.
It really feels like we've just scratched the surface of this complex and honestly, rapidly evolving field.
Yeah, it's changing all the time.
So as you continue exploring the world of AI and its capabilities, remember to approach it with curiosity, but also with critical thinking.
Don't be afraid to question things.
Yeah. Ask those tough questions.
Challenge assumptions and demand transparency.
Right, from the people who are developing and deploying these powerful technologies.
It's so important.
And most importantly, never stop learning.
Because this field is constantly evolving.
Right.
And the more we understand about how these systems work, the better equipped we'll be to shape their development.
Yeah.
And make sure they're used to create a better future for everyone.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI and personality.
Yeah, it was a great conversation.
Until next time, keep exploring.